between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. Events occur in real time.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to FPC Radio Live. Sorry about that. We had a couple little technical hiccups that got us on air, and then we were quickly off air. Kind of a bummer, but no, we're glad to be here today for a number of reasons. There's endless amount of things to talk about today. First and foremost, this is a day that John, I have been regretting or dreading rather, not regretting. I clearly have not had my coffee yet this morning, so my use of words is not going to be quite on par for what I'm used to. But no, I have been dreading this moment for a very long time, and that is the Instagram way of posting your retirement. And Tom Brady announced it officially yesterday. So no more what ifs, no more, well, maybe this, maybe that. No, it is official. He is no longer an active NFL player, and it saddens me. It saddens me.
I'm sure it will. I mean, do you think it's permanent? Do you think a year from now he decides?
No,
you know what,
it's permanent. No, I mean, he's 44 years old. He's not going to take a year off and then come back. If he was younger, maybe I'd buy that a little bit more. But no, this is for him. This is it. I mean, once he makes his decision, that's it. He's not going to go back. He's not going to, like I said, if he felt that he wanted to play, or I mean, I'm sure he wanted to play, but as he said in his statement, there are other things that require his attention, and I think he understands the responsibility he has as a father, as a husband, all that. That at a certain point he's not going to get exactly what he wants, and he's okay with that. And I think again, I think the hardest thing, the hardest it is for people is for people that are fans of his. I mean, I think Giselle's probably happy. I'm sure his kids are happy as much as I'm sure they love the moments, but they've had plenty of them to last a lifetime, even in their short life. So, I think they were ready to have him around. I'm sure she was ready. I mean, he's again 44, and at this point, he can say he somehow played 22 years and walked away. And I don't mean that just like figuratively, like walked away from the game. I mean like physically walked away from the game relatively healthy. And for playing 22 years, I mean that's something that I mean not too many people I'm sure are fortunate enough to experience. And I think at a certain point you have to understand or say, okay, when is enough? When am I gambling with my health? And maybe he just saw it as, look, from taking a cue from Bill Belichick himself, a year too early versus a year too late. And I think anyone, and I look, at the end of the day, when I get over this is going to kind of add to the lore of Tom Brady, but the discussion around him will always be how much more he really had left. Because I don't think anyone, I mean, look at Max Kellerman. No one is sitting here saying today that, yeah, it was time for him to physically retire. No, everyone's like, how much more did this guy really have? Because I could argue maybe another year as the best quarterback in the league at minimum, maybe a couple years, top five-ish. I mean, that's incredible. And I think, how we talk about how, we kind of criticize Marino for his legacy having been inflated over the years. Well, I'm thinking maybe Brady's somehow is going to get inflated, and this is going to be one of those talking points. Just how he ended it as, again, arguably the best quarterback in the league. And I think the only problem is, and this is what really got me about the end of the year awards thing. I think it's a damn shame that unfortunately he's going to end up losing this MVP award because you could sit there and look back in 5 years and say, wow, this guy was literally the best quarterback in the league, and he walked away at the height of his powers and never reached that cliff. In fact, and I said it yesterday, much like a goat, John, he actually climbed that cliff after Max Kellerman made that statement, and it was pretty incredible.
Yeah, I mean, Barry Sanders retired at the top of his game. Jim Brown retired at the top of his game. And as you said, he walked into retirement. He didn't limp into retirement. So he's still right there as perhaps the best quarterback in football. Certainly right there. Of course, he's going to finish second in MVP voting. He's setting records at the age of 44 years. Ended up tied for the best record in the league at 13-4 with a lot of things going on in Tampa Bay, right?
Mhm.
Injuries to the wide receivers, and then late in the season into the playoffs, injuries to the offensive line, and he still came back in the divisional round after being down 27-3 to make it 27-27. And who knows if they don't call up a blitz that half the team didn't know about, maybe Tampa wins that game and
Yeah.
it's Tampa and Cincinnati in the Super Bowl. Wasn't that far off from being true? My big takeaway from this is I'm not a Patriots fan. I used to be, but the more I got into the business, I was like, I try to be, somewhat distant of all that. But I know you're a Patriots fan and obviously a Brady fan. Were you turned off at all by the 961 word
Not
Instagram
not
post?
one bit. I mean,
Okay, because that's
it's
magic
so
close.
it's so like the people that are, and this is what pisses me off, and this is what drives me crazy about, especially even people in the Patriots fan base, because like I mean the obsessive need to be like I mean I feel like they wanted him to take court, a la like standing in a big like hall on a big stone throne and just having lines of peasants line up so he can thank them one by one. Like what he wrote was, first of all, he is a Buccaneer right now, okay, or he
Mhm.
was. So yeah, they're going to take priority in the first announcement because not only is he announcing his retirement, much like he was 2 years ago, he is announcing to Buccaneers fans and in the Bucks community that he's walking away. So yeah, he's going to make special mention of that, and to guys like Dave Portnoy, whether it's shtick or not, to get up there and whine like he's a 12-year-old when he's like, I don't know, like a 44-year-old man child. I don't know how old he is, but to get up there and bitch and complain and whine that, oh, Brady didn't think to pay. No, like anyone in their right mind that doesn't think that there's something in the future for Brady and the Patriots is delusional. And to not only do that, but do it like 3 I mean, good God, give the guy a minute to, kinda soak this all in. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's making a decision to walk away from the only thing like, they put up a graphic that, like, he's literally spent, you know, 300 days short of half his life in the NFL.
Mhm.
Like,
Right.
let the guy retire, let the guy do what he needs to do to cope with that and deal with that. I mean, clearly he appreciates the Patriots organization because the only reason you're complaining about this, I'm not saying you obviously, but the only
Yeah,
reason
I keep
people are,
hearing that.
yeah, the
I
only
just said,
I was kind of I was just shocked at honestly how much steam that picked up. But like if you're complaining about that, I don't know what to tell you because like that essentially means you believe he doesn't appreciate the organization. That's foolish. That's absolutely foolish. I mean, these are the same people who think that Bill and Tom, hated each other so much. I mean, obviously, I think we all agree that working together for 20 years, there's going to be some inherent tension, and I don't think that's unique to anyone. But there's certain people that believe that they wanted to, call out a hit on one another, and basically, would leave bags of crap on their doorstep type of relationship, and that's just not true. So I think it's the same. I think there's if you put a pie chart together, I think there's a lot of overlapping similarities between the two groups. But to me, it's absurd, it's ridiculous, and it's really just an embarrassing show of entitlement to think that he somehow owes you some specific in that moment type of comment. It's silly. And you know what, John? You know what's funny? And I don't know how many of these people actually noticed that. You know the photo that he chose? You know what game that was from?
yeah, from October's game at
Exactly.
Gillette Stadium.
And
But as a member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beating you, I mean, he had 6 Super Bowls that he won
but
here. He could
but
have put a
I don't
photo at
but
it.
again that is a so far right, not far right, but like a so far to one side cynic. You know what I mean? Like they're just overly cynical because like to think that he used that as sort of a pot shot. No, I thought that was a very subtle, a very Brady like way of just giving recognition to both. Again, he, for the last 2 years, has been a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. And as much as obviously Patriots fans feel that he's more of a Patriot than he is a Buccaneer, and that's true, 20 years versus 2, that's not it doesn't change the fact that the last 2 years he's been a Buccaneer. So, like, to think that he's just gonna, bypass that whole last 2 years of his career, it's
I
just
passed 20 years of his career, and
no,
the thing is,
no. Again, he did not though, because 2 years ago when he walked away from
okay,
the Patriots,
forget the fans.
when
Forget the
he
fans.
walked when he walked away from the Patriots and he left that message, thanking the organization and the fans and everyone involved. That's when he said goodbye to
Do
the
you,
Patriots.
okay, do you think Kraft is a little pissed today?
No. What do you
The
believe
reports
Ted
are that
Johnson? Oh, the reports. Okay, save me the reports because it comes from Ted Johnson, who clearly
because
has
he
a bone to
disagrees
pick.
with something.
What's that?
Not with Kraft. He has a bone to pick with Belichick,
No,
not
he
Kraft.
has he's become a very a bit of a
Is there
joke.
anything Tom Brady could do or not do that would upset you? That would say, "Geez,
No, well,
I'm happy with that."
well,
Is there
what you're
anything?
John, what you're doing though, you're digging and picking deep into corners to try to create some sort of controversy. At first, I thought you were bringing this up because you just wanted my opinion on it. I gave you my opinion. I thought it
I
was just
gave you. I'm trying to maybe bring into what other people may think. Again, I couldn't care less, but I've seen how other quarterbacks handle this. Right? Peyton Manning spent 4 years in Denver. When he retired,
it's
he first started
again.
talking about time in Indianapolis. So that's the way he handled it, and he can get praise for that. He said, "I'd be wrong if I didn't mention my 14 years in Indianapolis." And he did that in front of a Denver Broncos banner. Tom Brady decided to just, take out of the memory bank that he
So
spent
so
20
so
years.
do
I'm not
you
offended. I
no,
couldn't
no,
care
no.
less.
I'm asking you. I'm asking you. The reason you're asking me this is I have to believe that you feel like there was some sort of failed shot at the Patriots. Is that what you believe?
I don't think so because from all reports they kissed and made up
Okay.
back in October.
Okay,
So that's
exactly. So
that's
why
maybe
why
that.
does this matter at all then?
But don't you think he could have avoided this with about two sentences in
No.
there? I mean, it
Yeah,
was 901
I
words.
mean,
This wasn't a Twitter
the
post.
guy,
This
the
was
guy,
a
the guy talked about his recent time. He talked about his career in generalities. He spent the entire day, basically quoting and requoting every single Patriots player or former Patriots player or whatever that offered his thanks. I mean, the guy, the most successful quarterback in league history, just retired, and the fan base that he brought 6 championships to is complaining because he didn't say specifically, oh, I'm going to miss the lighthouse tower at Gillette and blah blah blah. Like, there's going to be time for that. There's going to be time where the fan base is going to get a chance to appreciate him, and he's going to be able to appreciate the fan base one more time. The idea that people are getting pissed and bitching and moaning about him not doing it in some silly Instagram post is going to absolutely ruin it. So yes, that ticks me off. Any sort of uh, 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 suggestion that, oh, is this a problem? Well, that implies that you believe that he is taking a purposeful shot at the fan base and the organization. And if you believe that, then I think you're just nuts. And I don't believe that you
well, no,
actually.
that's some person's feelings or opinions, not mine. Again, I'm just speaking
Well,
for
and
those
then
fans.
those people are nuts. Then I mean, and I've seen
It's
them.
your
I've
opinion.
seen. I think it's a fact because, again, if you're bitching and complaining about this, then again it's showing a massive sense of entitlement that just, again, is not that's not that's not what adults do. What do you want to be? I mean, I equate those type of people with Dave Portnoy. You know what I'm saying? Like, you saw his ranting
But
and complaining
that's
and.
a fan thing. We know that. I mean, adults shouldn't be wearing Brady shirts to a football game. That's a bit
Well,
insane.
I
I mean,
disagree. I disagree with that because I would do that. So I'm not gonna. No, I'm talking about being a man child or being like someone who's gonna get like. I have friends that got on Facebook yesterday and were like just these long rants about not appreciating the fan base, and I'm like, Jesus effing Christ! Like, I mean, I apologize for
on
taking
that,
the
yes.
name in vain, but like, Jesus, like why are you? Why does that? Like, why do you feel like you deserve that? Like, I mean, that guy gave you 20 years of his life, did everything the right way, and has in the past multiple occasions shown his great appreciation for the organization and fans, but yet because he didn't, put a couple specific words in his post, people are up in arms like, oh, this guy, F him, do this, blah blah blah. Well, guess what? You're an entitled a-hole. That's what you are if you feel that way. And yeah, maybe it's my opinion, but I feel like it's a very accurate and very right.
No, and I've heard both sides. And again, like I'm not a Patriots fan. Whatever he did, and as many great performers, whether it's actors, singers, or athletes, they say they owe you their performance. That's it. Marlon Brando, arguably the greatest American actor ever, said that. I owe you a performance. I don't owe you anything else. You know, Charles Barkley has said, "I'm not a role model. I'm an athlete," and I get that. That's all well and good. That's fine. And I like I said, I couldn't care less. I just wonder. I also wonder too is when he came here and there were some boos in the stands, which I think is ludicrous.
Well,
Like
I don't,
the people that booed Adam Vinatieri were ridiculous, and the guys, anybody that went into that stadium and didn't applaud Tom Brady is an idiot, in my
yeah, but
opinion.
I don't think he.
You think he holds back?
No, because I think. Well, here's the thing, though.
Like,
And again, this goes back to his previous admiration for the fan base. He talks about how passionate and how fiery the fan base is, and it's true. Guess what? I mean, again, you can. And I'm the biggest Brady honk in the world. That was the only time I've ever rooted against him because guess what? I am a Patriots fan, and I think a lot of Patriots fans felt that way. But I think he also appreciates that because, like, yeah, if you're a Patriots fan, it doesn't matter who's coming into that stadium. You want your team to win. So those boos, do I think it was boos out of hate? No, but I think it was boos out of, again, I think something he appreciates because he understands the passion of the fan base. And so, reading into all these things, like, I mean, again, I don't even think it should be a conversation because I think it takes away from the actual moment because the moment was the greatest quarterback of all time decided to walk away. And the response should have been appreciation. That's it. No, well, let's compare him to Belichick or, what about the relationship or what about this? What no, I don't care about any of that. I don't care about any sort of perceived or fictitious slights that some fans out there might feel like they have. Yeah, get over it. You're not that important. Let's be honest. I'm not that
I agree.
important. You're not not you, but it's just it drives me nuts. And like I said, the fact that even that conversation even picked up steam is um, ludicrous
Well,
to
you knew,
begin with.
but
But
if the raw emotion of the fans is that, then that's where the conversation goes.
no,
Yeah.
well,
So
the fans. I don't think the vast majority of the fan base believes that. I think a very small segment. Unfortunately, that small segment is likely the loudest, and unfortunately, it's also given a vehicle by some of the ridiculous sports talk that goes on in the area. So, that combined with, like I said, just the small segment being the loudest is obviously going to give you the perception that the greater fan base believes that. I don't think they do. I don't. I think much of the fan base is like, Jesus, like, just appreciate the guy. I mean, like, I don't care about that. It's like, it's like for the most part, like people, I think the people that were like F Tom Brady because he went to a different team, or I think it's a small majority. But guess what? Generally, they were the loudest because
of course, yeah,
yeah. So,
absolutely.
but like, I think there were a lot more people like me where it was just like, look, I would have loved for him to stay a Patriot for his entire career, absolutely. But you can't change what happened. He moved to a different team. I can appreciate and still be a fan of the Patriots, but also cheer for him, assuming that it doesn't interfere with my rooting interest for the Patriots. Very simple. It's very easy. Like the Patriots got eliminated, so you know what? Of course, I'm going to be rooting for Tom to win another Super Bowl. Why not? Because hell, what the hell? So, and again, maybe I'm a little bit more. Again, like I told you before, I was 14 years old when the guy was drafted. So, there's a part of me that has that when you get older, the fandom you have for sport, it wanes, just like anything. I mean, when you're a kid, you're impressed with anything. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah, like Bobby Orr was my first sports hero. I was
yeah,
7 years old. So that's the guy that and I was sad when he went to the Chicago Blackhawks.
yeah,
And the Bruins,
exactly.
and it turned out it was probably the right move for the Bruins because he played 10 games in Chicago before he had to retire. But yeah, no, I like I said, I don't. These guys owe you their performance. That's it. If not everybody's going to be David Ortiz, a very gregarious guy who comes back and has streets named after him, bridges named after him, and it's just everybody handles these things differently. I mean, he made that franchise relevant. Right? I mean, 6 Super Bowl titles. Whether you want to give him credit for every one of them,
he kind of made the Buccaneers relevant again. I mean,
he made the Buccaneers exactly.
And kind of what I was getting at with that was like, I might be a little unique because there's a part of me that, once I accepted that he was obviously no longer a Patriot, I appreciated that another fan base was able to experience, even albeit for 2 years. You could, and look, I mean, part of it is I've lived down here for several years now, so I was around it again, so I was able to see it firsthand. But you can see the impact he had on in just a short few years with the Tampa Bay fan base. And there's a part of me that's like, you know what? I appreciate that. I can enjoy that because, for years it was Tom and 31 other fan bases against him. Now it's like, you got Tampa Bay fans, and I saw this from the onset last year being like, they started out like, oh, the guy's 43, he's kind of fallen off a little bit, buying into the narrative, and I'm like, just wait, you will see. And it took less than a calendar year for them to be like, wow, this is what they meant. This is what the Patriots have been saying, or Patriots fans have been saying, and what Brady fans have been saying. Like, this is what this guy is, and to give another fan base again a little bit of a taste of that, a little bit of an experience. I can appreciate that, especially given the totality of his career. We were fortunate enough to see 6 Super Bowls and 9 appearances. And, Tampa Bay, I mean, the guy in 2 years almost doubled their entire franchise playoff win total. And to think this team is going to be anything but probably a fringe playoff team next year, barring any sort of acquisition of a top tier veteran quarterback. I mean, it's no knock on Tampa Bay, but it's the same thing I said about New England. When you lose the greatest quarterback of all time, who's currently in I said it in 2019, who I believe was still currently the best player in the league, you're going to take a step back as a franchise. There's nothing you can
Yeah.
do about that.
Yeah, I mean, how's Cleveland done since LeBron left? Or
Yeah,
Miami
exactly.
left, and how will the Lakers be when LeBron leaves because they can't get out of their own way? They're revoking season tickets that they promised
The
Derek West
the important thing
30
though,
bucks a year.
well, the important thing though is what Tampa does. Do they? And I think this is the silver lining for the Buccaneers. If they can take, because they have a lot of young, really good leaders, I think, on this team, young talent. I do think there's issues and things that need to be addressed, going forward. But they can take, what they've learned in their time with Brady and apply that moving forward, they can be a pretty successful team. Again, it all depends on who's playing, quarterback for them and who's under center. Because, again, you could have a great offense, a great defense, but if you have a subpar quarterback, well, guess what? You're going to be a middling team, and there's nothing you can do about it.
And that could become the worst division in football, right? Because
well,
New Orleans
yeah,
doesn't have a
it certainly
quarterback.
could.
Atlanta has Carolina doesn't have a quarterback. Matt Ryan, calcified at this point.
3 teams don't have a quarterback.
Right, and so
And then there's
exactly.
Matt Ryan, who's obviously at the end of his, getting towards the end of his career. So
That could be a division where you have a 6-win team, a 7-win team, an 8-win team, and a 9-win team, and it comes down to the final 2 weeks. They're playing each other, and someone sneaks in as a 4 seed with 9 wins, maybe 10 wins, and that could be Tampa because they still have talent there, and if they can go out and get a legitimate quarterback, obviously you don't replace Brady, but I don't know how comical it would be if Jimmy Garoppolo ends up in Tampa Bay.
I know. Isn't it ironic? Like, he finally replaces Tom Brady somewhere, just in Tampa Bay.
Somewhere else. Yeah, I mean, that would be perfect.
Yeah, honestly, though, that would be kind of a disaster, assuming that Bruce Arians is running the show there. I don't, that Jimmy's style and that style does not mix. Like, Tom's a chameleon and can play whatever style to the highest degree, whatever you need. Jimmy is not that. I think that would be kind of a disaster. Russell Wilson could work, but again, I'm not the biggest Russell Wilson. Like, I think that would certainly be a nice consolation for the Buccaneers. And he's a guy who's certainly capable of growing a little bit more into the Arians kind of his style of play. So I could see that, but whatever you do, whatever quarterback you get, you're downgrading the position. And again, that's not a knock on them. It's just if you're like me and you believe that Tom Brady is the best quarterback in the league, or this is the one thing I'm struggling with. He is and was. Moving to past tense as opposed to present tense it's an emotional drain on me, John. I'm working through it as we speak. But,
it's like us with Daniel Day Lewis. He's retired as an actor. Now actors can come back. I mean, Martin Scorsese can come up with a great script and say, Daniel Day-Lewis, you're the guy for this role. Okay, I'll come back and do it. It's a little bit different
Yeah,
with a
well,
quarterback 40
yeah,
years old.
it's not like wrestling where it's like, I think Ric Flair and The Undertaker have combined retired about 15 times, but you never know when
Exactly.
they're going to make an appearance here and there. Well, no, Tom Brady's not going to make a spot start in about 5 years. Unfortunately, that's not the case. But
He'd probably win the game though, wouldn't
he
he?
would,
Come
he
back
would.
at
I mean,
58, 49,
well,
like
and that's the beauty of the discussion around him. Like I said, I brought up Dan Marino earlier. We talk about John Elway, the way his career ended, and obviously Peyton Manning. Who cares about his actual season? He walked off as a Super Bowl champion.
right.
There's going to be, you know, at the end, the finale of it all is going to be, well, Tom won a Super Bowl in his first season with Tampa, and then he walked away, leaving, I don't know, 2, 3 good years left. I mean, again, all 3 of those years, maybe he isn't the very best quarterback in the league, but like, could you ever imagine him falling out of the top 5? I mean,
No.
like and that's what I think. That's the lore. That's the legend that's going to grow from here on out. Like obviously, like his legend is set in stone. But I think that's going to be that. Every quarterback has whatever. Oh, what if Dan Marino played now? What if John Elway got the help he needed earlier in his career? What if
Mhm.
this or what if that? And well, that's what we're going to get with Tom. What if he did play until he sucked? How long would that be? Because
Right.
there's no one that's going to convince me that that was going to happen anytime soon. Because
Yeah.
yeah,
Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson, Jim Brown. Those are the 3 guys that come to mind who just retired at the very top of their game, like Brady. Like Jim
and
Brown
the
was
big
29 years old.
and the
Won his
and
8th
that exactly bingo. That's that's the biggest difference. It's like those guys were in their late 20s. Tom Brady was 44 years old,
I
and
know.
you're still thinking like, my God, that guy still has 2 or 3 good years left. And I think the biggest disappointment for me, unfortunately, and this is again, um, I know this doesn't matter to him, and that's part of his greatness and why he was so great. But like, he's going to finish, I think, like 3,000 or like 3,300 yards shy of 100,000 yards passing. And that's regular and postseason combined. He has
Mhm.
97,000, whatever the number is. But basically, if he plays one more season, he's going to shatter that. So, like, so that's always going to be a big what if. But the reality of it is, even with the inflated passing numbers of this new era of football and with the additional game, like we mentioned before, guys like say Patrick Mahomes, who again I think is obviously trailing, but certainly has a leg up on some of these other younger quarterbacks, would need to do everything he's doing now at the same exact efficiency until he's 41.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that is how absurd that is. And that's not saying that, again, that's him playing his entire career in a very pass happy, inflated passing era with an additional game. So that's how impressive that is, that he would have to do this every year from now. That's 15 years. He's 26 now.
Mhm.
And this is something too you think about. One of the driving forces of why Brady is walking away now is his family. He unfortunately, now in hindsight, really it didn't have kids until he later in his career. Patrick Mahomes always already has a child. And you think that he's going to be 44 years old, 44-year-old? Just imagine if everything goes right and he maintains a same level of performance and he reaches that longevity. Problem is, his kids are going to be a lot older than what Brady's are now. Like at
Yeah, his
least,
daughter is 19.
yeah.
Yeah, because I
So
think
we're
she was born a year and a half ago, right?
so
2 years
you're
ago.
it's something that's not really necessarily being talked about, and that's one of the incredible things about how long Brady played was that I guess the timing of how old his kids are. Like I think his oldest is
14.
14.
14
So
is
yeah,
time. The age of the
which is kind of the perfect, and this is probably what weighed on him too. Was this is the perfect time for him to, with his oldest being 14, he'll have a great opportunity to experience a lot of stuff with all of his kids. And we know
Mhm.
he's a family guy, and his kids love him, all that stuff. So that's fine. So that worked out in his favor. Had he had kids at 25, 26, you're talking about one kid in college, probably playing college football, or maybe not. I mean, I don't know if the kid's athletic or not. He's kind of lanky like his dad, but you know what I mean. All of his kids would be much older and getting to the point where they'd be moving out. So like he would be staring at, well, I'm going to miss out on my kid's entire childhood, essentially. And
Right. Look, LeBron's son is 16.
yeah,
LeBron was not 20 or 21 when he had
yeah,
his son, so he's 16. Again, there's the hope and the rumor that they're going to play with each other in 3 years in the NBA. I mean, I don't know if his son is going to be that good, but yeah, that's crazy. I still think the smartest athlete in the history of athletes is Derek Jeter. Was not married, did not have kids until he retired. So he was all in on his career, and then when he was ready to retire, he walked away, and then he started a family.
well,
I don't even know if he has any kids, but then he got married. He handled it differently. I think Brady handled it perfectly too. I mean, at some point you want to settle down, and I think marrying Giselle helped him, right?
oh
I mean,
sure,
I think
oh
it's
sure, sure.
grown his
I mean,
brand.
people,
I mean, the guy won 4 Super Bowls after meeting Giselle. Remember there was that joke for the first 5 or 6 years when they together was like the curse of Giselle.
yeah.
He had Super Bowl,
Well,
between 2001 2014. Well, that curse was broken, every other year.
well, and that's the thing. Next year is going to mark, and I'm glad you kind of mentioned that. Next year is going to mark the first time since 2012, 2013 that there'll be 2 seasons in a row where Tom Brady was not in the Super Bowl, which is absurd. I mean, he's gone to the Super Bowl every other year since 2014.
Great. No, it's great.
It,
I mean, we can look back for the next 6 months and surprise ourselves. I'll give you this one, Ian, and I'm just buttering you up or whatever. Tom Brady played in 4 Super Bowls before Aaron Rodgers won his Super Bowl. He's played in 6 Super Bowls since Aaron Rodgers won his
it's
one Super
wild.
Bowl.
It's crazy.
That's like really. I mean, again, 20 years of playing, right? Because he didn't play his first year and he was hurt. No way. So this is the funniest
Yeah.
stuff. He went to 14 conference championship games in 20 years. That's 70%. That's not bad as a free throw shooter in the NBA,
Yeah.
right? So more likely that Tom Brady plays in a conference championship game than a lot of guys in the NBA make a free throw. He played in 10 Super Bowls in 20 years. That's 50%. Michael Jordan's career shooting percentage was 49.6%. Brady was more likely to play in a Super Bowl than Michael Jordan was likely to make a field goal. Tom Brady won 7 Super Bowls in 20 years. That's 35%. LeBron James' three-point shooting in his career is around 35%. So it's as likely that Brady wins a Super Bowl as it is LeBron makes a three-point shot. That's absurd.
Yeah, and look, there's so many stats like that too that are just you sit there and I think the fog of the Brady hate once it wears off, maybe it takes a couple of years for some of the most adamant Brady haters where they're just like shake their head and give a little blah, 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 just wait a minute. What have I been doing the last
Yeah.
15 years? I'm saying he's a system quarterback. What?
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe they go back and they appreciate, but there's so many stats like that where it's just like it defies conventional wisdom. It's like I said, the volume passing stats where it's like every quarterback in the history of the NFL loses when they throw more, except for Tom Brady, who wins at an exorbitant rate. Which again, I mean, look, I'm excited for the future of what the NFL is. I mean, you obviously in the last handful of years you basically watched the 21st century, the early 21st century quarterbacks. This era is over. You can argue that maybe Aaron Rodgers is in that mix, but the reality of it is he didn't really start until later in those 2000s. Whereas opposed to talking about the Eli Mannings, Brady, Breeze, those guys all, and you can throw Peyton Manning because latter part of the 90s. So all those quarterbacks are now retired and gone, and that's essentially like when I think about my personal childhood. That's the grouping of quarterbacks I'm going to think about and be like, wow, this is what we got to see. And fortunately for me, I got to see the best of them all. And he's a guy who I've said it before. Like I think, and look, if it's 2027, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there in Canton. I'm going to be there when he's in some capacity. I don't know what capacity, but I will be there. Whether it's in the audience, who knows? I will be there to see him get inducted. Although I do feel that it would be a tremendous honor for them to bypass the 5-year waiting period. But I think more realistically, and I think this is something that I think should probably happen pretty soon, to be honest with you. I think they should rename the Super Bowl MVP trophy because it doesn't have a name. It's just the Super
Yeah,
Bowl
I have
MVP
no problem
trophy.
with that. That would be,
And
yeah, the Tom Brady trophy. They do that in basketball, the
yeah,
Bill Russell trophy for the MVP. And ironically, Russell never won an MVP because they didn't start giving it out until he left the league. Yeah, so I absolutely that would be fantastic.
and look, I mean, again, if the guy has 5 Super Bowl MVPs and the 2 that he didn't win went to receivers, which means if anyone was in close second place, it was likely the quarterback. Because guess what? How did the
Yeah, someone
receivers do what they did?
right. Yeah.
The quarterback got them the ball. So, it's going to take a while. There's going to be moments that I'll be sitting there like kind of thinking about something, and all of a sudden I'm going to remember that you know Tom Brady's retired. I'm going to be a mess. It's going to be me trying. Like I kind of feel, John, that like the moment he retired, I instantly started getting older. Those storylines where like I don't know
Oh,
this
sure.
this is like I think it's like I think it was some movie or show, but the concept is pretty standard. But like, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure it's an Eddie Murphy movie. Not really kind of killing the quality, but basically the tree leaves were falling off. Okay, and the moment the last tree leaf falls off, he like dies or whatever. Um,
Mhm.
that's been basically me. Like I've been latching on to my childhood for as long as Tom Brady was still playing. The moment he retired, I felt like Tim Allen in the Santa Claus. I saw like gray hairs instantly start to form on the sides of my head, and nose hair started coming out, my ear hair started to grow. It was just nose puberty, ear puberty. You know how it
Don't
is.
remind
But
me. That's what happens to old guys. Yeah, old guys
well,
don't
that's what I'm saying. Maybe my youthful good looks have been linked to just whether or not Tom Brady was still in the league. So we'll see what happens.
Well,
About
you got your younger brother that you can attach
yeah.
to. You get
No, I'm
younger
sorry.
brother Joe
I'm
Buck.
sorry. As much as I appreciate it, I love the new generation of quarterbacks, and you're going to see, for the first time by default, I will say that Tom Brady is not the best quarterback in the league because, well, technically he's not in the league, so I can't say that. So I am going to have to say someone else's eventually. We will certainly get to that. Maybe it is Joe Burrow. Maybe he has the greatest Super Bowl performance of all time in 11 days. Maybe not. Who knows? We'll see. Okay. Obviously, we spent this whole show on Brady, and there's so much more to talk about. There's a lot going on, obviously, with Brian Flores. A lot of really pretty big stuff in the NFL. We're going to get to that tomorrow. I would like to, obviously, we're going to learn a little bit more about that situation. Hopefully today, I know Brian Flores was set to be on Good Morning Football this morning, I believe, or no, I'm sorry, Get Up on ESPN. So tomorrow we will really dive into that. Today, obviously, we've been waxing poetically about Tom Brady. So tomorrow, join us, same time, same place. We'll break that all down for you. Have a great day, folks. We'll talk to you then.